March 24th, 2014. A motorcycle taxi driver in Nigeria filmed something on his phone that shouldn't exist. 23 seconds of shaky footage showing chains bolted to concrete walls, human teeth scattered across a blood-stained floor, and something moving in the darkness that used to be a person. The video cuts to black. When police arrive at the coordinates, they find 8 survivors who look like walking corpses, hundreds of human remains, and evidence that wealthy politicians had been coming here for years. And this is just the first continent. Each location I'm about to show you represents something darker than the last. Real cases, real footage, real investigations that were buried, censored, or simply too disturbing for mainstream coverage. This is one disturbing thing for every continent. Africa. The Soka Forest sits 30 minutes outside Ibadan, Nigeria's third largest city. For years, locals whispered about people entering the forest and never returning. Motorcycle taxi drivers spoke of passengers who'd asked to be driven to the forest edge at night, pay triple fare, and walk into the darkness carrying briefcases. On March 22, 2014, one of these drivers went missing. His colleagues decided to search for him. What they found in that abandoned building would become Nigeria's most censored crime scene. The structure itself looked unremarkable from outside. Concrete walls overtaken by vegetation, windows covered with sheet metal. But the smell hit them first. Sweet, thick, unmistakable. Death, but not recent death. Layers of it, years of it. Inside, they discovered what investigators would later describe as a human slaughterhouse. The main room contained 8 people chained to the walls with leg irons. They were alive, technically. Their bodies had consumed themselves from starvation, leaving skeletal frames covered in paper-thin skin. One man's eyes had clouded over from malnutrition. Another couldn't speak, his vocal cords damaged from months of screaming. But it was the second room that made even veteran police officers vomit. Decomposing corpses stacked like lumber, human skulls arranged on shelves, body parts sorted into containers, hands in one, feet in another, internal organs preserved in jars. The floor was 6 inches deep in congealed blood and human waste. Investigators found receipts, business cards, and most disturbingly, a ledger. Next to each entry were phone numbers. Some belonged to politicians, others to prominent businessmen, several to religious leaders who preached against witchcraft in public, while apparently practicing it in private. Survivors told investigators they'd been kidnapped from bus stations, markets, even their own homes. They were kept as living organ banks. When an order came in, guards would select a victim, harvest what was needed, and leave them to die or survive based on what was taken. One survivor, a woman named Grace, had been there for 18 months. She watched her sister get dismembered while conscious. Because the buyer specified no sedatives, the fear makes it more potent. The arrest came quickly. 6 men were taken into custody, all low-level operators. They were drivers, guards, harvesters. The names in the ledger, the buyers, the ritualists, the politicians who believed consuming human organs would bring power and protection. They were never arrested. The case files were sealed. The forest was declared off limits. The building was demolished. But locals still report seeing expensive cars parked at the forest edge at night. Still hear screams that stop too suddenly. One survivor, before dying from his injuries 3 days after rescue, grabbed a nurse's hand and whispered, "There are more forests. They just moved to different forests." The nurse's report was removed from the official record. But Africa wasn't the only continent hiding something in plain sight. In Hong Kong, 1999, a children's toy would become evidence in one of Asia's most sadistic murders. Flat 3B, Granville Road, Tsim Sha Tsui, Hong Kong, May 1999. A 14-year-old girl walks into a police station and says she's being haunted. The officers almost dismiss her until she describes the ghost, a woman with no skin holding her own head, standing next to a Hello Kitty doll. The girl breaks down crying and says, "I helped put her in there." What followed was the unraveling of a torture case so extreme that Hong Kong newspapers refused to print the full details. Fan Man Yi was 23 years old, worked as a nightclub hostess, and had made one mistake. She stole a wallet containing HK $20,000 from the wrong person. Chan Man Lok, a 34-year-old triad member, didn't just want his money back. He wanted to make an example. On March 17, 1999, Chan and two accomplices abducted Fan from her apartment. They brought her to Flat 3B, a unit Chan used for drug deals. They told her she'd be released once she worked off the debt. That was a lie. For the next month, Fan Man Yi experienced torture that investigators called beyond human comprehension. They suspended Fan from the ceiling using electrical wire, beat her with metal pipes while she hung there. When she lost consciousness, they'd throw water on her and continue. They melted plastic straws and dripped the burning liquid onto her skin, timing how long she could stay silent. They forced her to eat human feces mixed with chili oil, made her drink bottles of urine, sometimes her own, sometimes theirs. One night they played a game where Fan had to catch cockroaches with her mouth. For every one she missed, they'd burn her with cigarettes. The apartment's walls were thin. Neighbors heard screaming, crying, begging. But this was Tim Shatsui. People minded their own business. One resident later testified, "We thought it was a domestic dispute. The screaming would stop eventually. It always stopped eventually." Around April 14th, Fan Man Yi stopped responding to torture. They'd broken her body so thoroughly that pain no longer registered. Chan grew frustrated. He kicked her in the head repeatedly until, according to witness testimony, something cracked and she stopped moving. They left her body in the apartment for a day, unsure what to do. Then Chan had an idea. He sent one accomplice to buy 2 large pots and cooking oil. They dismembered Fan's body in the bathtub using saws and kitchen knives. Most parts were boiled down and flushed down the toilet or thrown in dumpsters. But the skull was different. Chan had a collection of Hello Kitty merchandise in the apartment, stolen goods he sold on the black market. He took a large Hello Kitty mermaid plush, about 3 feet tall. They cut open the back, removed the stuffing, and sewed Fan's skull inside. Then, in an act of particular cruelty, they filled the remaining space with dead cockroaches, the same ones Fan had been forced to eat. The doll was hung in the bathroom as decoration. For weeks, the 3 men and the 14-year-old girlfriend continued living in the apartment, eating meals, watching TV, sleeping, all while Fan's skull watched from inside the Hello Kitty doll. The girlfriend began having nightmares. She saw Fan standing in the bathroom, skin melting off, pointing at the doll. The dreams got worse until she couldn't take it anymore. When police searched the apartment, they found the doll exactly as described. The forensic photos, which leaked online in 2003, show something that shouldn't exist: a child's toy transformed into a sarcophagus. You can see the stitching where they sealed her inside. The truly disturbing part: during the trial, prosecutors revealed that Fan Man Yi had a son. Chan Man Lok and his accomplices received life sentences for manslaughter, not murder. The judge ruled they hadn't intended to kill her, just torture her. Under Hong Kong law, the maximum sentence for manslaughter is life imprisonment. Sometimes the most terrifying footage isn't of violence or death. Sometimes it's watching someone realize they're in danger. And in Bulgaria 2014, every second of that realization was caught on camera. Europe, the Lars Metank airport footage. July 8, 2014, 6:47 a.m., Varna Airport, Bulgaria. Security camera 7 captures a young man in a yellow tank top sprinting through the departure hall. He vaults over a barrier, bursts through the exit doors, and runs full speed into a field of sunflowers. Camera 12, exterior, tracks him for another 43 seconds before he disappears behind a tree line. He's never seen again. This is the last known footage of Lars Metank, and it's been viewed over 20 million times. But what most people don't know is that there are 7 hours of additional surveillance footage leading up to his disappearance. 7 hours that show a man slowly losing his grip on reality, or realizing something we still don't understand. Lars was 28 from Germany on vacation with friends at Golden Sands Resort. Normal trip until July 6th, when he got into a fight with 4 British tourists over football. He stumbles, touches his ear, looks at blood on his hand. His friends would later say this was when everything changed. A doctor at the local hospital diagnosed a ruptured eardrum, prescribed antibiotics, and told Lars not to fly for a few days. His friends had to return to Germany for work. Lars said he'd be fine, checked into the Color Hotel Varna alone. This is where the surveillance story really begins. The hotel had recently upgraded their security system. 37 cameras, all digital, all recording. The footage quality is unsettling in its clarity. You can see every expression, every nervous tick, every moment of growing paranoia. Lars enters the hotel lobby. He's walking normally, checks in, goes to his room. Lars leaves his room, walks to the end of the hallway, stands there for 6 minutes staring at the emergency exit. Returns to room. 2:33 a.m. Lars emerges again, fully dressed. He takes the elevator to the lobby, walks outside, stands in the parking lot looking up at the building. The night vision camera shows him counting windows, pointing at different floors. The most disturbing sequence. Lars is in the hallway, pressing his ear against other guests' doors. He's listening for something. At room 237, he suddenly jerks back, runs to the stairwell. The camera in the stairwell shows him hiding in the corner, breathing heavily. No one else is visible in any frame. Lars calls his mother in Germany. The call, which she recorded because she was worried, contains this exchange. Lars, I don't want to take the medication anymore. Mother, what medication? Lars, the ones they gave me. 4 men are following me. They want my medication. Mother, who's following you? Who's following you? I don't know who they are. They're coming. I have to hide the medication. He hangs up. 5 a.m. Lobby camera shows Lars at the front desk, asking the clerk to call a taxi to the airport. The clerk would later testify that Lars kept looking over his shoulder, insisted on sitting where he could see all entrances, and paid in cash that he counted out 3 times. 5:45 a.m. Lars enters Varna Airport. This is where we have the most complete footage. 14 different cameras tracked his movements for the next hour. He checks in for his flight normally, goes through security, sits in the departure lounge. Everything seems fine until 6:31 a.m., when he suddenly stands up and walks to the airport medical center. He tells the doctor he needs to be examined before flying. The doctor's report, leaked in 2016, notes, patient extremely agitated, dilated pupils, repeatedly asks if room is soundproof. The examination room had 1 camera, mounted in the corner. Then he stands up, says clearly in English, I don't want to die here. The next part, everyone has seen. Lars bursts from the medical center, runs through the departure hall. The investigation revealed disturbing details. The antibiotics he was prescribed were not standard for ear infections. They were ciprofloxacin, known to cause severe psychiatric side effects in rare cases. Bulgarian police conducted a massive search. Dogs tracked Lars's scent for 2.4 kilometers into the sunflower field, then lost it at a service road. Like he got into a vehicle, or like he simply stopped existing. His mother still receives calls, silent calls from Bulgarian numbers. When she answers, she can hear breathing, sometimes wind, sometimes what sounds like someone trying to speak but can't. If you're still watching, still processing what surveillance footage can reveal, then consider this. Some predators don't need to hide. They operate in shadows not because they're careless, but because they're so careful that shadows are all we ever see. Melbourne, Australia, August 22nd, 1987. A family wakes to find a masked man standing in their bedroom. He speaks softly, almost politely. I won't hurt anyone if you do exactly as I say. This was the first confirmed attack by the man police would call Mr. Cruel. But it wasn't the beginning, and after 37 years, we still don't know if it's ended. The level of preparation was unprecedented. He'd cut the phone lines before entering, disabled the family car by removing spark plugs, brought pre-cut lengths of cord specifically measured for binding wrists and ankles. He knew the layout of the house, the family's schedule, and most disturbingly, he knew the children's names. He tied up the parents and the 7-year-old son. Then he took the 11-year-old daughter. He wrapped tape around her eyes, carried her to a car, and drove for approximately 25 minutes. The girl would later help create the most detailed victim account in Australian criminal history. She was kept in what seemed to be a residential house. She could hear airplanes regularly, likely near Melbourne Airport. The room had a bed, a radio playing classical music, and plastic sheets covering everything. He made her shower repeatedly, brush her teeth with a new toothbrush he'd bought. He washed her clothes and made her wear them inside out to avoid leaving fibers. During the 18 hours she was held, he assaulted her multiple times, but between attacks he was bizarrely considerate. He made her food exactly what she liked, which meant he'd researched her preferences. He gave her a glass of milk and said, I bet your mom gives you this before bed. He drove her to a school 50 kilometers from her home, left her at the gate and said, "Tell them Mr. Cruel let you go." But she provided a detail that changed everything. She heard him on a phone call. He said, "I'll be late. The kids are playing up." He had a family, children. He was someone's father, someone's husband. Then came April 13th, 1991. Carmine Chan, 13 years old. Mr. Cruel broke his pattern. He entered the Chan home in Templestowe at 8:40 a.m. Daylight unprecedented. He locked Carmine's younger sisters in a closet, spray painted their mother's face to temporarily blind her. He was more aggressive, more rushed. Something had changed. Carmine was never released. A year later, April 9th, 1992, a man walking his dog found her remains at Edgar's Creek. She'd been shot 3 times in the back of the head, execution style. The body showed no signs of torture, no defensive wounds. It appeared she was killed shortly after abduction. Why did he kill her? The FBI's analysis, obtained through Freedom of Information, suggests Carmine saw his face. Maybe the mask slipped. Maybe she pulled it off. Maybe he made a mistake. But Mr. Cruel didn't make mistakes. The investigation was the largest in Victoria police history. 30,000 homes searched. Nothing. 27,000 suspects interviewed. 10,000 DNA samples collected. $1 million reward offered. Nothing. But there were patterns hidden in the data. All attacks occurred during school holidays. All on days with specific weather patterns. Overcast. No moon. The locations formed a geographic profile suggesting someone familiar with Melbourne's electrical grid. Several witnesses reported seeing a man in electrical utility clothing near the scenes. In 2010, a cold case review found something chilling. Similar attacks had occurred in the 1970s and early 1980s. Same methods, same phrases, but the victims were too traumatized to report details. If connected, Mr. Cruel had been active for over 20 years. The sketches are what haunt investigators. Dozens of them, all showing the same masked figure, likely still living in Melbourne, possibly your neighbor, possibly someone you've smiled at on the street. Detective Chris O'Connor, who worked the case for 15 years, retired in 2019. His final interview contained this statement: "We know he recorded everything, hours of video, hundreds of photographs. They're somewhere, in an attic, a storage unit, a safety deposit box. Someone will find them someday, and when they do, they'll find more than just evidence." But sometimes the real horror isn't what humans do to each other. Sometimes it's what we find when we look where we're not supposed to. And in South America, 2 men found exactly that. South America, the lead masks case. August 20th, 1966. Vintem Hill, Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. A teenager flying a kite discovers 2 men in matching suits lying side by side on the hillside. They're both wearing identical lead eye masks, crude, homemade things that cover only the eyes. They're both dead, and next to them is a note that Brazilian police have never been able to fully explain. So why were they found dead on a hillside, dressed for a business meeting, wearing lead masks designed to protect the eyes from radiation? The investigation uncovered a timeline that only deepened the mystery. August 17th. The men told their families they were traveling to São Paulo to buy materials in a car. They took 3 million cruzeiros in cash, equivalent to $50,000 today. August 17th, 2:15 p.m. They're seen at a bar in Niterói, 200 miles from where they claim to be going. Witnesses say they seemed nervous, kept checking their watches. One bought a bottle of water. The other kept looking at the sky. 3:45 p.m. They purchase their return bus tickets for the same day. Then they buy 2 raincoats from a shop, despite clear weather. 4:30 p.m., the last confirmed sighting. They're walking toward Vintem Hill, wearing the raincoats, carrying the water bottle. August 20th, bodies discovered. No signs of violence, no struggle. Positioned precisely, backs flat against the ground, arms at their sides, faces toward the sky. The lead masks still perfectly positioned over their eyes. The autopsy revealed nothing, no poison detected, though Brazilian forensic science in 1966 was limited. No wounds, no apparent cause of death. The men simply died. But the investigation uncovered something else. Cruz and Viana weren't alone in their interests. They belonged to a group of scientific spiritualists who believed advanced beings were trying to contact humanity. The group had been experimenting with psychedelic drugs, electronics, and attempts to communicate with what they called the operators. 3 months before their deaths, another member of their group, Hermes Luis Feitosa, was found dead on a beach in similar circumstances, lead mask over his eyes. Note about awaiting contact. No cause of death determined. Police found notebooks in Cruz's home filled with electronic schematics that didn't match any known devices, diagrams for machines that generated specific electromagnetic frequencies, references to the threshold and visual protection required for transition. On the night of August 20th, 1966, the night the bodies were discovered, hundreds of residents reported seeing an orange oval object hovering over Vintam Hill. The reports were so numerous that the newspaper O Cruzeiro ran a front-page story. Witnesses described a craft that pulsed with light, made no sound, and remained stationary for approximately 17 minutes before ascending vertically at impossible speed. A local photographer, Eduardo José Ferreira, claimed he took pictures of the object. His film was confiscated by men claiming to be from the Brazilian Air Force. Ferreira was found dead 6 weeks later. Cause of death, heart failure. He was 24 years old. In 1980, Jacques Vallée, the French ufologist who inspired the character in Close Encounters of the Third Kind, traveled to Brazil to investigate. He found something the original investigation missed. The position of the bodies, when mapped, formed one point of a perfect equilateral triangle with two other locations, the beach where Feitosa died, and a radio tower that had been experiencing unexplained interference since 1963. Vallée also discovered that the lead masks weren't just lead. They were lead mixed with barium and traces of an unknown isotope that doesn't naturally occur on Earth. The mixture would theoretically protect against a very specific type of radiation, not nuclear, but something in the extreme ultraviolet spectrum. The men's families revealed one final detail in 2002. Both Cruz and Viana had been building something in a shed behind Cruz's house. They worked on it at night, wouldn't let anyone see it. After their deaths, the families found the shed empty except for burn marks on the concrete floor in a perfect circle, 7 feet in diameter. The concrete was fused into glass at the center. Temperature required for that transformation, over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. 1630 be at agreed place. They had an appointment, 1830 swallow capsules. They took something to prepare their bodies. After effect protect metals. The lead masks weren't for before, they were for after. Wait for mask signal. They were waiting for something that required eye protection to witness. Did they make contact? Did something go wrong? Or did everything go exactly as planned? 5 continents, 5 mysteries, each darker than the last. But I've saved North America for second to last because what happened in California in 1978 breaks every rule of disappearance, every pattern of missing persons cases. 5 men vanished, 4 died, and the truth might be worse than never knowing. North America, the Yuba County 5. February 24th, 1978. 5 men attend a basketball game in Chico, California. They're seen buying snacks, laughing, excited about their own tournament next week. They get in their car to drive home. A straight shot, 50 miles on Highway 70. They never arrive. Their car is found 3 days later on a mountain road 70 miles in the opposite direction, abandoned in snow at 4,500 feet elevation. The doors unlocked, the keys missing, the gas tank quarter full. No signs of accident or struggle, just 5 men who drove into the mountains and vanished. But this isn't just another missing persons case, because 4 months later, when the snow melted, investigators found something that defied every protocol of survival, every instinct of self-preservation. They found evidence that at least one of the men survived for 13 weeks in conditions that should have killed him in 3 days. The men were Jack Madruga, 30, owner and driver of the car; William Sterling, 29, deeply religious; Jack Hewitt, 24, good-natured; Theodore Weiher, 32, who loved basketball; Gary Mathias, 25, schizophrenic, on medication, with a history of violence when unmedicated. All 5 had mild intellectual disabilities or mental health conditions. They met at a vocational rehabilitation center, called themselves the Boys, did everything together. They were independent but vulnerable, trusting but capable, which makes what happened even harder to explain. The car was found on Oroville-Quincy Road, a mountain route that makes no sense. It's the opposite direction from home, up a winding road into wilderness. The car was stuck in snow, but not badly. Investigators drove it out easily. No damage, no mechanical problems, just abandoned. Inside the car, a window rolled down despite freezing temperatures. Maps left behind. Gary Mathias's basketball shoes. He never went anywhere without them, but no keys. They've never been found. Joseph Shawns, 55, was stuck in snow on the same road that night. He had a heart attack, saw lights, called for help. He claims 5 men approached his car, looked at him, then walked away into the darkness. He saw them talking to someone else, a 6th person he couldn't identify. Then they disappeared up the mountain, on foot, in street clothes, in a snowstorm. June 4th, 1978, 20 miles from the car, through dense forest and deep snow, investigators find the Plumas National Forest trailer, a ranger station stocked for emergencies. Inside, they find Theodore Wayher. He's been dead approximately 2 weeks. He's in a bed, under 8 sheets. He weighed 80 pounds. He'd lost 120 pounds. He'd starved to death. In a trailer with enough food to last 5 men 5 months. The details make no sense. The trailer had matches, but no fire had been lit. It had a propane tank, but the heating wasn't turned on. Canned food lined the shelves, but only a few cans were opened. He'd survived there for 13 weeks, freezing, starving, with everything needed to survive within arm's reach. On the table, his broken gold watch, a ring, scraps of food wrappers dated weeks apart. Outside the window, 12 open cans arranged in a perfect line on a ledge, like someone was counting days or sending a signal. Near the trailer, investigators found Jack Madruga and William Sterling, both dead from hypothermia. Sterling was found with his hands raised above his head, lying on his back, posed. Madruga was 2 miles away, also positioned formally. Jack Hitt was found between the car and the trailer, partial remains. Animals had scattered most of him, but his backbone was found laid out straight, like someone arranged it. Gary Mathias has never been found. His shoes were in the car, but his body isn't anywhere in the search area. The only trace, Waywer was wearing Mathias's watch when he died. Waywer was wrapped in a blanket that wasn't from the trailer, and someone had been bringing him food, not from the trailer's supplies, but from somewhere else. The same person who covered him with 8 sheets as he died. The investigation uncovered impossible details. The men walked 20 miles through mountain snow without proper clothing. They found the trailer in darkness. No flashlights were missing from the car. Someone with a key opened it. The lock wasn't broken. They chose to freeze and starve rather than use available resources. Someone was caring for Wayher but not saving him. Jack Madruga's mother, before she died in 2016, said something that investigators never included in reports. The night before they disappeared, Jack called me. He said they'd met someone at the game who invited them somewhere after. Someone Gary knew from before, from his time at the hospital. Gary Mathias had been institutionalized twice, both times at Napa State Hospital. Both times he was released early despite doctors' protests. The second release was ordered by someone whose name is redacted in all documents. The trailer where Wayher died is still there. Rangers won't stay in it overnight. They say on cold nights you can hear someone counting. 1, 2, 3, up to 13. Then it starts over. 13 weeks. The exact time Wayher survived. The Yuba County 5 case remains open. So, where's Antarctica? Well, the truth is, I found so many disturbing stories down there that it couldn't just be a segment. The footage, the files, the disappearances, the things researchers claim they saw under the ice, it's way darker than you think. So now. Make sure to subscribe. The videos will only get better.